Show. I should ask Check, check, check. Check 1, 2. Hey, hey. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of Block Sports. And I am your host, Michael Jefferson, and it is great to be back again here in the house and just to be able to say, hey, how you doing? And what another great football weekend. We're in the middle of basketball season, had a little bit of volleyball as well, but guys, we're here to talk about football. We're getting ready. We've already had a couple of playoff games, had some great wins for HBCU sports, but just in case you need to get in contact with me before we get into all of the happenings of this past weekend, if at any point in time you are looking to get in contact with me, please make sure that you contact me through my website, which you are probably currently on right now at www.yourstreet.tv. That's www.yourstreet.tv. And at any point in time you want to send me an email, then you are able to send me an email at michaelj@jcconnect.net. That is michaelj@jcconnect.net. These are the locations in which it is best to get in contact with me at. And at any point in time, you need to say, hi, how you doing? What's going on? Is everything looking good? Is everything okay? Should you need to even contact me to say, hey, we want you to be able to do our sporting event, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, volleyball. It doesn't matter what the event is. Softball is coming up. Of course, baseball is coming up in the spring, but it doesn't matter the sporting event. We can come in and we can accommodate whatever your requests are. But as I said, you saw my information. I'll put it back up one more time just in case. And here it is. It is michaelj@jcconnect.net. That is my email address. And, of course, my website, which hopefully most of you are on, is at www.yourstreet.tv. And, again, thank you guys very much for being able to join me here today. And I just look forward to being able to just continue to provide sporting information for you and give you all the up-to-date information as I possibly can. As you know, for the CIAA and the SIAC, all regular season event participation has concluded. And the winner for the SIAC, or should I say, well, let's do first the CIAA. The CIAA, the winner was, and I'll even show you, go back and show you the score of that particular game. The winner for the CIAA was, of course, Virginia Union, defeating their in-state rival, Virginia State, by a score of 17-13. So congratulations to Virginia Union for being the CIAA champion for the second year in a row. So congratulations to Virginia Union for being able to continue with their matriculation through the championship. And also for the SIAC, Miles defeated Clark Atlanta for the SIAC championship. So congratulations to Miles for defeating Clark Atlanta. Now, let me go back, because for Clark Atlanta, Coach Teddy Keaton, he was the coach of Allen University. And being the coach of Allen University, they were on the rise as being a pretty good team. But the one thing I can say is that in his move to Clark Atlanta, a lot of people didn't expect him to do very well. But guess what happened? He made it all the way to the SIAC championship game in his first year. So congratulations to Coach Keaton. I will also say congratulations to Coach Flowers, Coach Maurice Flowers, the coach of Johnson C. Smith, because in his second year at Johnson C. Smith, he was one game away from qualifying to go to the CIAA championship. Had he not lost that last game, he would have qualified. But guess what? Still, congratulations on being a success. So for Clark Atlanta, SIAC, Coach Flowers, the coach of Johnson C. Smith, congratulations to both of those schools for successful runs in your respective conferences. But more than anything else, let's move forward, because Virginia Union, CIAA, and Miles College, SIAC, they each qualified to go to the Division II playoffs. Now, let's go and see the layout for the playoffs. And here we go. Hopefully you guys can see this. Kind of small, I understand. But in the bottom left, you will see that in the bottom left, they are in the Valdosta State bracket. And if you notice, Miles College is ranked number 4, playing against Carson Newman. The number 2 team in that bracket is Wingate, playing against Virginia Union. Now, the number 3 team, of course, is West Alabama, and they're playing Lenore Ryan. And the others, as you can see, we have Kutztown in the top left, you have Ferris State in the top right, and you have CSU Pueblo in the bottom right. And those are the number 1 schools for the respective regions. And of course, for those 4 teams, Kutztown, Ferris State, CSU Pueblo, and also Valdosta State, those 4 teams received byes, and which means that they're just waiting around to see who they're going to be playing this upcoming weekend. But the one thing I can say is that as we go back, before I reveal you the scores of how well Miles and how well Virginia Union played this past weekend, as you can see, Miles was able to host the game against Carson Newman, and Virginia Union had to go on the road to play Wingate, who was considered the number 2 team in this particular bracket. And with that being the case, I have to say to you, for what actually transpired, is congratulations to the first team. Well, I guess the second team that I mentioned, because they were playing the number 2 team in the Valdosta State bracket, Virginia Union. They were playing Wingate. And I have to say, first off, congratulations to Virginia Union for defeating Wingate in overtime by a score of 34-31. Congratulations, first off, more than anything else, to Virginia Union for defeating Wingate. That is a great victory for Virginia Union, being that this is their second year, and defeating the number 2 team in this bracket. So again, congratulations, because that was a hard-fought game going into overtime for Virginia Union, but Virginia Union making it through the CIAA and having fought very hard. Heck, they had to fight up against Johnson C. Smith. As I said, they had to play against Johnson C. Smith, and Johnson C. Smith actually defeated Virginia Union. So congratulations. As a matter of fact, that was one of Virginia Union's losses. They lost to Johnson C. Smith and also Virginia State. That's how Virginia State was able to make it into the conference finals, by defeating Virginia Union. But again, congratulations to Virginia Union for defeating, again, Wingate, which was considered the number 2 team in the Valdosta State bracket. Again, congratulations, because that's for a lot of pundits that are out there. A lot of individuals say that, oh my gosh, these HBCU schools, they can't play. The coaching is not all that good, and I don't even know why we bother. But do I really need to go into that conversation when well over 50, 60, almost 70% of the players that are out there are African American? As much as I have, and I have to be careful with my wording because I do respect, for the most part, what he's doing, but with what Coach Prime is doing at Colorado, he took those HBCU players and look at what he's done. Look at what those players are doing. Because you can be the greatest coach in the world, but if as a player you don't have the wherewithal to play, you don't have the wherewithal to fight and be that winner, then it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. Some cases, you may not even be a good coach, but because those players have the desire to win, sometimes they can overcome bad coaching. But to those HBCU players that decided to follow Deion Sanders, guess what is happening? Look how successful they are. And the reason why I say that is because look at Virginia Union. This may be a Division II school, but look at what they're doing. So congratulations. And also, congratulations to the other school, Miles College, who hosted their game. And their game, again, as I said, was against Carson Newman. And congratulations, because they defeated Carson Newman by a score of 14-13. So again, congratulations to each of those schools for the success that they had in those games. And as a matter of fact, with that being said, it's kind of interesting that the only school in that particular bracket, I didn't look at the other brackets, didn't really care about the other brackets, so I apologize if you guys want me to go over all of the other brackets. I'm sorry. I didn't do it because the only bracket I was concerned about was the Valdosta State bracket, because they had 2 HBCU schools that were being represented and that were playing in this particular bracket. But it's kind of interesting that the number 2 team, Wingate, and the number 3 team, West Alabama, both lost. And the only ranked team to win 1, 2, 3, and 4, because number 1 didn't play, 2 and 3 lost, number 4 was Miles College. The only team to win at home. And it happened to be Miles College. Now, for next week or this weekend that's coming up, here are the games and here are the teams that are going to be playing on this upcoming Saturday. And this is going to be round 2 for the Division II playoff. And, of course, you have Lenore Ryan. And based upon what we have so far, Lenore Ryan will be traveling to Virginia Union to play in Richmond, Virginia. But that is still to be determined, the time. As far as Miles College, they will travel to the number 1 team, and they will play Valdosta State. And that game is scheduled to be at 1 p.m. at Valdosta State. Now, let me say this. Last year, and you know what, let me keep this up just a little bit longer so you will have that information in front of you, just in case you're looking for that. Now, let me say this. Valdosta State has come a long way. 2 years ago, Valdosta State, they just went through Division II like a hot knife through butter. Now, they may have lost some games as they made it quite a ways through Division II playoffs. But they always were involved in the Division II playoffs. Last year, they were not the Valdosta State that everyone was familiar with. This year, they're undefeated. So welcome back, Valdosta State. Needless to say, because of this is going to be a really tough game for Miles College. Can Miles College hold their own against Valdosta State? There's a great possible chance that they can hold their own. Needless to say, they must play a flawless game in order to be successful against Valdosta State. Because more than anything else, with Valdosta State, they are known to be a strong team offensively, especially on the defensive side. And if you are not ready to play almost a near flawless game, then what I will say to you is that you will have a long 4 quarters playing against Valdosta State. So to Miles College, I say this to you: much success, and hopefully you come out on top. Same thing for Virginia Union as you play Lenore Ryan. And with both of these teams, Miles, with Miles and Virginia Union, these are going to be really tough games. It would be great to see each of these teams matriculate to have to play each other in the finals in their bracket, because the winner of the Virginia Union, Lenore Ryan, and the Valdosta State Miles game, the third round game will be against each other. And then you go and start getting ready for the semis and the finals. Wow. That would be great to have at least one HBCU making it that far. Benedict did very well in their playoffs, but yet and still, to have an HBCU to matriculate through to the second and the third rounds would be absolutely sensational for each school. And then not only that, but for Miles College, this is Coach Shade's second year. For him to be this successful in his second year, that says a lot. And also for Virginia Union, this is his 6th year, Coach Parker. This is his 6th year. And for them to have this type of success today, congratulations. And all I have to say is this: whoever you're rooting for, doesn't matter where you graduated from. As you know where I graduated from, it's not from either college. But my goal and my prayer is that we are successful, that each team is successful in winning. I'm familiar with Miles, not as familiar with Virginia Union, but I'm hoping for their continued success. Now, let's move forward, because we have some other games and other teams and other conferences to take a look at. Now, let me say this first and foremost. South Carolina State. Wow. Coach Berry. Where on God's green earth did you come from? I was not expecting this. I expected to see South Carolina State be successful in a couple of years. Maybe even next year. Because I see the dogfight that Coach Wilson is doing. I see the dogfight that Coach Scott is doing. And I see the fight that each of these coaches are bringing to each game. But what Coach Berry is bringing with South Carolina State and how they have taken the MEAC by storm is just unbelievable. In their 4th game, they clinched because there are only 6 teams in the MEAC. In their 4th game, they clinched the berth to the Celebration Bowl. Really? The 4th game. 4th game, they clinched their berth to the Celebration Bowl. Wow. Now, of course, that was a game that had to be played this weekend. And last week, South Carolina State played, as far as I'm concerned, and I apologize to all of the schools that are out there, I truly do. But as far as I was concerned, their last big hurdle, first hurdle, they defeated the bully, North Carolina Central. I love Coach Oliver. Sorry, I do. Love him. Great man, great attitude. Actually, I love all of these coaches. Great attitudes. Love what they bring to the table. But I'll always say North Carolina Central is the bully of the conference. But they got bullied by South Carolina State. The following week, they had to play Howard. Dang. I mean, one after the other. And then, and I forget when they played Delaware State, but they played Delaware State in there somewhere. But then, not this past Saturday, but the previous Saturday, on the 16th, they had to travel to the other big boy, Morgan State. And they spanked Morgan State. Spanked them 54-7, leaving no doubt whatsoever. And that's when they clinched the MEAC, saying that, yes, we are the boys. And then this past weekend, here are the scores from this past weekend. Now, of course, do these games matter? Yes, to the schools that are playing. North Carolina Central defeated Delaware State 52-10. Howard University surprisingly lost to Morgan State 35-21. Tough year for Howard University. But as you can see, Howard lost to Morgan State by a score of 35-21. Morgan State's all of a sudden coming into their own. And then, of course, South Carolina State, they're just bludgeoning teams in the MEAC, defeating here Norfolk State by a score, as you can see, 53-21. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, if you want to see where they stand, here you go. South Carolina State undefeated in conference play, followed by North Carolina Central, who's the loss. The loss was to South Carolina State. And as you can see, you have three of the 6 schools that are above at 500 or above. And here you are, South Carolina State at a record of 9-2, winning their last 8 games. North Carolina Central 8-3, 4-1 in conference play. Morgan State 3-2, 6-6 overall. And then you have the rest. Norfolk State finishing 2-3 in conference play, 4-8 overall. Howard University, very surprising, 1-4 in conference play, 4-8, the same with Norfolk State overall. And Delaware State, unfortunately, not winning any conference games this year, finishing with a record of 1-11, losing their last 10 games in conference play. Overall. Rough year. But at the same time, even though they are 1-11, 0-5 being Delaware State, in conference play, 0-5 in conference play, they were a hard team, especially outside of conference, to defeat. Some of those games that they played, they were in a lot of those games. So with what Coach Hull is bringing to football, bringing to his team, is a good football team. And I'm looking forward, because I said this earlier. There are no easy outs in the MEAC. However, you may not say that when they play South Carolina State. And in some cases, this year, you may not say that when you play North Carolina Central either. So between the Carolinas, North Carolina Central and South Carolina State, the two Carolina schools, this could be the case for a long time unless you have a Coach Wilson with Morgan State or Coach Scott with Howard to come up and challenge. Because as I said, this is Coach Berry's first year with South Carolina State. Did he bring in some of his own players? Yes, he did. He brought in some of his own players from Benedict College. Those players that he brought in are used to winning. They have the championship heart. They have a champion's heart. They know what it takes to win. They have that desire because he put it there. If you know Coach Berry, know the type person he is, you will see that. Heck, I don't want to do anything in football, but listening to Coach Berry, heck, at the age of 59, he made me want to get shoulder pads, put on cleats, and go out and play football. And there was nothing in me that ever wanted to play football. But he almost made me want to get out there at the age of 59 and play football for him. That's the kind of coach he is. Don't get me wrong. All of these conferences have great coaches. But it was just something about the way he motivated his players and how they had that desire, that yearning to play for him. And as much as I hate to say it, I should be going to the Celebration Bowl. I hope to go to the Celebration Bowl. I hope that Jackson State is able to matriculate to the Celebration Bowl. And if they do, then I hope to see Jackson State play against the MEAC champion, South Carolina State University. And this is their second championship in the last 4 years. And it's going to be interesting to see how well South Carolina State play against the SWAC champion. And that SWAC champion is yet to be determined because we have one more week, but that SWAC championship, and I'll get to that as we go through the SWAC games. And of course, let's go and let's talk about the games that were being played in the SWAC conference. Now, I said a long time ago, and I know a lot of people said, you're drinking. Did I really care? No. Because I know what I saw, and I knew the coaching staff for the Southern Jaguars. Not only that, sometimes it doesn't even matter who the coach is for Southern. It's just something about the players that they bring into Southern. I don't know what it is they drink. I have no idea. All I know is this. The athletes, not just the males, not the athletes that play for them damn Jaguars. If you count them out, and if it's 2 minutes left in the event, and you count them out, you just lost. Yes, I said that as a Jackson State grad. If you count them out with 2 minutes left, or you may have one more point to score, or it's 2 out, they're down to their last strike, and you guys are ready to jump up in baseball or softball, you think you got them, all of a sudden they hit a base hit. All of a sudden they steal a base. All of a sudden somebody just score a home run, hit a home run. And guess what? They're back in the game. can't count them out. I said in the middle of the season that I saw Southern winning their division, the West Division. Prairie View had just, if I'm not mistaken, had just defeated Southern. Southern had just lost at home. And I said, don't matter. I still see Southern coming back and doing very well. And guess what happened? They did. Now, last week, not this past Saturday, but the previous Saturday, Southern played Arkansas Pine Bluff. And with that game that Southern played Arkansas Pine Bluff, they defeated Arkansas Pine Bluff by a score of 31-9. Jackson State in the East, right after having played Florida A&M, which was the last year's champion, Jackson State played Alabama State at Alabama State. And they were fortunate to beat Alabama State by a score of 16-10. A very hard-fought game. Unfortunately, that game was marred by unsportsmanlike conduct on both sides. Jackson State, going into the game against Alcorn, they had 7 players that were suspended. And going into that game, going to Alcorn, a lot of people had a lot of intrepidation about that game, saying, why did we have to have players suspended going to Alcorn? Our, outside of Southern, our most hated rival being Jackson State. But they took it in stride. Next man up. And because of that, let's go to the scores. And as you see the scores, I'll also talk about the other games as well. So here are the scores from this past week for the SWAC. And here you have Alabama A&M traveling to Mississippi Valley State and defeating Valley by a score of 49-35. Valley, even though they lost their last few games, however, they defeated Florida A&M, which my son is still a little ticked off about that. And when I say my son is a little ticked off about Florida A&M losing to Valley, I mean he's just pissed. He could not believe that Florida A&M lost to the Valley. And Valley traveled to Florida A&M and defeated Florida A&M. So, needless to say, my son was at one time the president, the student body president for Florida A&M. So, needless to say, he was just a little upset. But let's go ahead and continue with the scores for the SWAC conference from this past weekend. And as you can see, Prairie View traveled to Alabama State, and Alabama State, as you can see, is the only team to win their home game based upon everything that you see. And it was a battle of field goals. Alabama State winning by a score of 9-6. As you can see, and Alabama State just holding on. Defeating Prairie View by a score of 9-6. Alcorn, as you can see, their home game. And folks, look, I have a cousin, my first cousin that graduated from Alcorn. She played in the Sounds of Dynamite, and she was at the time they were called Flag Girls. She was the lead of the Flag Girls when she was there, and I can tell you, she was great. At the time, all the Sounds of Dynamite, they were good. And of course, they have their name for us. We have their name. We have our name for the Sounds of Dynamite, of course, because they're our hated enemy. But at the same time, Alcorn came to play. But in this game, as you can see, Jackson State was triumphant. Beautiful campus. If you ever get the opportunity to travel to Alcorn, please do. Beautiful campus. Just absolutely gorgeous campus. But going back to the scores, Jackson State was successful. Next man up, and they defeated Alcorn by a score of 48-10. They started subbing their other players by the fourth quarter, and they were still successful against Alcorn. Don't know whether or not Alcorn had just packed their bags and just said, you know what, the season is over. But when you're going against your rival, you can make sure that they don't finish undefeated. And with this win with Jackson State defeating Alcorn by a score of 48-10, and we will look at the standings, but this allowed Jackson State to finish the season undefeated in conference play. Not the first time that we've done this, and it won't be the last. But Texas Southern also traveled to Arkansas Pine Bluff, defeating UAPB by a score of 31-23, and Florida A&M won in the Florida Classic, defeating Bethune-Cookman by a score of 41-38. So congratulations to the teams that travel, and the lone home team, as you can see, Alabama State defeating Prairie View. But with all of that being said, all the teams that were on the road, minus Prairie View, won their games. Alabama State was the only one to hold their home court. But with Jackson State, congratulations to them. But here are the other games that are yet to be played in this upcoming football season, and then we'll take a look at the standings. And the games that are yet to be played, here they are. And you have Tuskegee traveling to Alabama State to take them on Thanksgiving Day, and that will be held in Montgomery at 1 p.m. Next, you have Alabama A&M playing Florida A&M. That is a makeup game, if I'm not mistaken, and that game will be played the day after Thanksgiving at 3 p.m. in Tallahassee. Of course, that is a conference game. Next, you have the Bayou Classic, and that game, of course, is going to be held in New Orleans. This will allow for Southern to finish with only one blemish on their record if they come out and defeating Graham. And that game is at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time in New Orleans. And as you can see, that game will be played in New Orleans, conference game on NBC. And I'll make sure that I'll be watching that after I get back from working. So, yes, I'll be working Friday and Saturday, doing another pregame show for another conference. But that's what I do. And on Saturday, December 7th, and we'll talk about this again next week, after the game, after we find out whether or not Southern University defeats Grambling State in the Bayou Classic, on December 7th, for the SWAC Championship, we will have Jackson State hosting Southern University for the Boombox Classic, the second one. And I'll talk a little bit more after we go to the standings. But as far as the standing goes, here you are, Jackson State, already finished on top, undefeated in the East, 7-0, 9-2 overall, and the only team in the East with the record above 500. Overall, you have Alabama State, Florida A&M, and Alabama A&M. All three of those schools finished at 500, but Alabama State, with a record of 4-3, FAM and Alabama A&M, who are yet to play each other, they finished with a record of 3-3, but they are still to play against each other. Southern in the West is at 6-1, yet to play Grambling. And as you can see, Southern finished at 6-1. Alcorn losing to Jackson State, and Alcorn also lost to Southern, which makes them not eligible because they eventually lost that game to Southern University. And as you can see, everyone else, the only other team with a winning record happens to be Alcorn, 6-5. All of the other teams are below 500. Grambling is 5-6, but they finished 2-5 in conference play. Grambling happened to be one of the teams that actually defeated Jackson State. Interesting. But that game was not a conference game. It was a non-conference game, as the game was when Jackson State played Southern University. It was a non-conference game. But because those are historically great games that are played normally, they decided to make sure that those games would be continued. Because there are 12 teams in conference play, every once in a while, and I can't remember at which point they drop off and they come back on, but they will play in rotation. Each team will play in rotation, except for the teams in their division. They must play each team in the division, but the other team in the other division, they rotate them in and rotate them out on depending on at which point in time. And I don't remember if they play a team consistently for 3 years, then they drop off for 2, and they come back and play them for 3 years. But yet and still, that's the rotation in which they play. But Southern is such a heated rivalry, and not only that, but the fans travel whether they're going to Jackson or going to Baton Rouge. That's a huge sellout for both schools, and that's why they want to make sure that that game is on each team's schedule. But as I was saying, Jackson State is the champion for the East Division, having won the last 3 of the 4 East Division crowns. And for the West, Southern University is the winner of the West Division, having won 2 of the last 3 division crowns for the West. And because of that, this is the SWAC championship game that will be held on December 7th at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time at the Vet in Jackson, Mississippi. And that game will be hosted by Jackson State University against Southern University, and this will be the Boombox Classic number 2. And I can tell you right now, folks, it's going to be a barn burner. All I have to say, oh yeah, by the way, there's going to be a football game played too, because the bands are going to come in, they're going to show up, and they're going to show out. Jackson State, as I've been watching on YouTube, it seems like Jackson State comes out with a new book every year. Every game. Every game, it seems like they play a new, just different songs. Almost every game they go to, they play 6 or 7 different songs. Their book must be enormous. I'm talking about the Sonic Boom of the South. Their book must be enormous. I remember when I was playing in the Boom, we had a nice sized book. Our book wasn't this thick. These guys are playing like 30, 40. They got to be playing upwards of 30 songs, 30 maybe even 40 songs, if not more. And they play them with power. They have memorized all of these songs. And when you talk about other bands, about how great they are, I'm sorry. Can't touch them. And what makes Jackson State the Sonic Boom of the South separating them from everyone else is because of the book that they have. They can easily come out and play the same 2 or 3 songs every game for the 0 quarter and also for 5th. But guess what? 5th quarter, whole new book. Just a whole new book. What can you say? What can you do? You can't do anything except say, wow, they're just that good. But for what I have to say, folks, for Division II playoff, make sure that you support Miles College and also Virginia Union. Miles College, as I said, Miles College is playing the number 1 team in their bracket, Miles College will play and travel to Valdosta State, whereas Lenore Ryan will will travel to Virginia Union. And let's support both of those schools as they matriculate through Division II playoffs. South Carolina State, congratulations again to them for winning the MEAC Conference Championship. And also congratulations again to Jackson State University and Southern University for winning the East and West divisions respectively. Congratulations to all of the schools. And on January 14th, I believe it's January 14th, maybe the 13th, I plan to be at the Celebration Bowl. Let me double check and make sure I'm saying the correct date, because on that particular date, yes, December 14th, I will be at that game. I will also conduct my own pregame show and make sure I come to you live from the Celebration Bowl. And I don't know if I'll be inside or outside. If the Tigers of Jackson State defeat Southern University, then I'm almost certain that there will be a tailgate at Jackson's on the outside for Jackson State. And don't be surprised if I come to you live from that tailgate and then come inside to do other things. I will be there. But I'll be there regardless. Even if them damn Jaguars from Baton Rouge, Louisiana defeat the Tigers of Jackson State at the Vet for their second go-round. And I can tell you right now, guys, it's tough to beat a team twice in the same year. It's tough. So Jackson State will have their hands full when they play against the Jaguars. They had their way against them the first time when they played them in the Vet. Now the Jaguars will play them again, and I can guarantee you they are going to bring a lot more fans to that game in the championship. So the Vet will probably be full on December 7th. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend that game because I will be attending another game. But much success to each team. And with that being said, guys, I look forward to seeing each of you next week. Next Monday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this time will go on and throughout the rest of the year until Christmas. And may God bless you, and I hope and pray that each of you have a successful Thanksgiving more than anything else in the world. Much success to each and every one of you, and may God bless you, may God keep you, and support your favorite HBCU. God bless.